The summer I turned 16, my mom cut off every inch of my long, feathered hair. Not at a salon. Not because I asked. Right there in our upstairs bathroom in 1978, on a wooden stool under a beach towel with her sewing scissors and our neighbor's clippers. She gave me a Dorothy Hamill wedge, short, stacked, completely exposed at the nape. I cried for an hour straight. And 30 years later, it's the single parenting moment I'm most grateful for. This is the story of the haircut that changed everything. And the mom who loved me enough to do the hardest thing. My name is Lauren. And at 48 years old now, living a quiet life in a small town in Pennsylvania with my husband of 22 years and 2 grown kids who are starting families of their own, I still catch myself touching the back of my neck when I see old family photos or a retro 70s show on TV. That one summer in 1978 changed so much more than just my hair. Back then, I was 16, full of teenage fire, big dreams of becoming a singer or maybe even moving to California someday, and hair that I truly believed defined who I was. I had long, thick chestnut brown hair that fell well past my shoulders. Every morning, I'd spend what felt like hours in front of the bathroom mirror, feathering it with my round brush and blow dryer, trying desperately to copy Farrah Fawcett's iconic look from Charlie's Angels. I'd tease it just right at the crown for volume, flip the sides into perfect wings that framed my face, and finish it off with a cloud of aqua net hairspray that could probably hold up against a tornado. The smell of that aerosol still takes me right back. To me, that big, feathered hair was my armor. It made me feel pretty, cool, and rebellious in a world where I was supposed to be a good girl. Single mom, who worked long, exhausting shifts at the local textile factory to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads, saw it very differently. She was practical, no nonsense, and raised us with old-school values. She had warned me all spring and into that hot, sticky summer of 1978, her voice steady but growing firmer each time. Lauren Marie, that hair of yours is always in your eyes, taking up half the bathroom counter with all those rollers and sprays. One more time you come home late, sass me, or leave the house looking like you just rolled out of a rock concert, and I'll take matters into my own hands. I'll give you a proper, neat haircut, something short and practical like Dorothy Hamill's wedge. No more hiding behind all that mess. I'd roll my eyes and mutter under my breath every single time. Dorothy Hamill, the Olympic figure skater who won gold in 1976 with that short, stacked wedge cut that bounced perfectly on the ice. No, thank you. That style was for little girls who needed hair that stayed put during spins or for busy moms who didn't have time for fuss. I was 16. I wanted volume, length, and freedom. I'd sneak out to the roller rink with my friends, blast disco music on the radio, and come home smelling like cigarette smoke from the older crowd hanging around outside. My feathered hair would be frizzy from the humidity, strands sticking to my lip gloss, but I felt alive. That particular July evening, I pushed her too far. I skipped helping with chores again, came home well after dark from the roller rink, reeking of smoke and soda, with my once perfect feathered hair now a tangled, frizzy disaster falling into my face during dinner. The kitchen was a mess, dishes piled up, and when Mom asked me to pitch in, I talked back with a sharp, "Why do I always have to do everything around here?" She set her coffee mug down on the table with a quiet clink that somehow sounded louder than yelling. Her face was tired from another double shift, but her eyes were calm and determined. Bathroom. Right now. We're done with this nonsense tonight. Stomach twisted into a tight knot. At 21, I thought I was practically an adult, but in that moment I felt small again, like when I was 8 and got caught sneaking cookies before dinner. My heart hammered as I followed her upstairs. The hallway smelled like the lemon pledge she used on the furniture, so ordinary, yet it made the whole situation feel even more real and inevitable. The upstairs bathroom was bright under the harsh fluorescent light. Mom had clearly prepared while I was out. On the counter sat her good sewing scissors, the sharp ones she usually saved for fabric, a wide-tooth comb, the electric clippers our neighbor Mr. Thompson had lent her from his barber shop, and a thick old beach towel we used for summer trips to the lake. No fancy salon cape or fancy products, just practical, everyday items that made this feel like a serious mom intervention, not a trip to the beauty parlor. "Sit down on the stool," she ordered, pointing to the wooden kitchen stool she had dragged in and placed directly in front of the big mirror over the sink. I lowered myself onto it, my bare legs sticking slightly to the cool wood from the summer humidity. My hands trembled in my lap. Mom stepped behind me and unfolded the thick beach towel, draping it heavily around my shoulders. She pinned it tightly at the back of my neck with a safety pin, the rough terracloth scratching gently against my skin. It still carried a faint scent of laundry detergent mixed with sunscreen from past beach days, comforting and heartbreaking at the same time. "You've been testing my patience for months now, Lauren," she said quietly, her voice low and steady as she ran her fingers slowly through my long, tangled, feathered hair one final time. She lifted the heavy mass, let it drop, and I caught the familiar scent of my Aquanet, drugstore shampoo, and the lingering cigarette smoke from the rink. "This wild, high-maintenance hair is coming off tonight. I'm giving you a Dorothy Hamill wedge, short and stacked high at the back and nape, gradually lengthening toward the face with those rounded, bouncy layers. It'll be neat, practical, and completely out of your eyes. No more hiding, no more excuses." Immediately sprang to my eyes, hot and stinging. "Mom, please not the Hamill wedge," I begged, my voice cracking. "That's so short and babyish. It's what little girls wear to skate, or what moms get when they're too busy. Everyone at school will laugh at me and call me Dorothy for the rest of the year. I'll look like I'm 10 again." She placed her strong, work-worn hands firmly on my shoulders, squeezing gently but with no room for argument, and met my eyes in the mirror. Her reflection showed exhaustion from years of raising us alone, but also that quiet steel I knew meant she wasn't backing down. "You lost the right to choose the moment you chose disrespect, laziness, and coming home smelling like trouble. Now you will sit perfectly still and feel every single cut. This is for your own good, honey, whether you see it at 16 or when you're older like me someday. Growing up means learning responsibility. And sometimes that starts with how you present yourself to the world." She picked up the wide-tooth comb and began dragging it through my hair with slow, deliberate strokes, section by section. Each tug pulled at my scalp, sending tingles and little shivers down my spine. She worked carefully to smooth out all the teasing, frizz, and tangles, making the long chestnut strands hang straight and heavy around my shoulders. The familiar weight felt comforting for the last few moments. Then she picked up the scissors. She started at the back, lifting heavy sections of my precious long hair and cutting a blunt baseline high up my neck. Snip, snip, crunch. The sound echoed sharply in the small tiled bathroom. Thick, chunky pieces of my feathered hair fell heavily onto the towel draped over my shoulders and scattered onto the floor with soft, final thuds. I watched in the mirror as years of length disappeared rapidly. The cool evening breeze drifting in from the slightly open window hit the freshly exposed skin at the back of my neck, raising instant goosebumps. Mom continued methodically around the sides, shaping the signature stacked wedge, keeping the back short and tapered while allowing the layers to gradually lengthen toward my jawline and cheeks. The scissors never rushed. Snip, snip, crunch, snip. Loose strands stuck to my damp cheeks, neck, and arms, itchy and impossible to brush away under the towel. The air felt strangely lighter on my head with every section that fell. Then she switched to the electric clippers for the nape and lower back to create that clean, stacked effect. She turned them on with a low, menacing buzz that vibrated through the quiet room and seemed to travel straight into my bones. She gently but firmly tilted my head forward. "Hold still now, Lauren. This part needs to be precise." The cold metal guard pressed against my sensitive nape. The buzzing grew louder and more intense as she carefully shaved and blended the short, stacked area, sculpting the sharp wedge shape. Tiny clipped hairs rained down inside the towel, tickling my back, shoulders, and even slipping down my spine. The sudden exposure of skin felt shockingly bare and vulnerable after so many years of long, protective hair. Every pass of the clippers sent a mix of vibration and coolness up my skull. She finished by refining the front and sides, ensuring the longer pieces around my face had that slight, perky flip, but stayed controlled and neat, nothing like my old wild Farrah wings. When she finally stepped back, brushed away the loose hairs with her hand and a soft towel, and unpinned the beach towel, she said softly but with absolute finality, "Look at yourself in the mirror, Lauren. This is the new you until you learn some real responsibility." I forced my eyes open and stared. My long, voluminous, feathered 70s hair was completely gone. In its place was the iconic Dorothy Hamill wedge, short and dramatically stacked high at the back with a rounded, bouncy shape. gradually lengthening toward my jawline and cheeks in smooth, controlled layers. The nape felt cool and exposed. The short back made my neck look longer, and the sides flipped up in that signature perky way whenever I moved my head. It made my face appear younger, rounder, and far more innocent than the rebellious teen I wanted to be. I looked like a proper good girl straight out of a 1970s Sears catalog, or like I belonged on the Olympic ice instead of sneaking cigarettes at the roller rink. A raw sob escaped my throat. Tears rolled freely down my cheeks. I look so short and childish. The back is practically shaved. How am I supposed to show my face at school or the rink like this? Everyone will know Mom forced the Hamill haircut on me. Mom immediately pulled me into a tight, warm hug right there on the stool, her strong arms wrapping around me from behind. She held me close against her chest, one hand gently stroking the back of my new wedge cut. Her fingers traced the short stacked nape, the bouncy rounded layers, and the smooth transition to the longer sides. The touch felt both soothing and humiliating, a constant reminder of the change. "SHH, baby girl," she whispered, her voice softening as she rubbed my back with her other hand. "I know it feels terrible right now. That big feathered mess was just another way you were fighting growing up and avoiding rules. This wedge is neat, easy to care for with just a quick blow dry, and it shows the world you're starting to learn discipline. Every time you feel that cool air on your neck, every time those perky layers flip when you turn your head, or every glance in the mirror, remember that I did this because I love you and want a better future for you than I had." She held me like that for what felt like forever, rocking me slightly, kissing the top of my shorter head, and occasionally running her palm over the entire wedge shape as if to seal the new reality. Later that evening, she made my favorite treat, a big bowl of ice cream with chocolate syrup and bananas, and we sat together on the couch. She kept one arm around me, her hand occasionally resting on the back of my neck or smoothing the bouncy layers, whispering stories about her own tough childhood and how structure had helped her survive. In the weeks and months that followed, the Dorothy Hamill wedge became my constant companion and teacher. The bouncy swing of the layers when I walked to school. The electric feeling of every breeze or touch on the short, exposed nape. The giggles and teasing comments from classmates, "Hey, Dorothy." The way it was so easy to wash and dry in the mornings, no more hours fighting with the blow dryer and aqua net. Slowly, almost against my will, something inside me began to shift. I stopped fighting Mom as much. I helped more around the house without being asked. My grades improved that fall. And by the time the school year ended, I had to admit deep down that I felt steadier, more focused, and strangely more cared for than when I was hiding behind all that wild hair. Now, at 48, when my own daughter rolls her eyes at my rules or spends too much time perfecting her modern hairstyle, I sometimes catch myself smiling and thinking back to that sticky July evening in 1978. Mom's punishment wasn't about cruelty or control for its own sake. It was tough love in the only language she knew how to speak after years of hard work and sacrifice. That short, stacked wedge taught me more about responsibility, humility, and growing up than any lecture ever could. Some haircuts look old-fashioned or even mortifying when you're a teenager, but they plant the seeds for the most timeless life lessons. And that's the full story of the Dorothy Hamill wedge punishment my mom gave me back in the summer of 1978. Hey, fellow Gen Xers and anyone who grew up in the 70s, did you ever get hit with the Hamill haircut, wanted or not? Were you Team Farrah Feathers, or did your mom win with the wedge? Share your own nostalgic hair trauma or funny stories in the comments below. I read every single one, and it always brings back so many memories. Which part of the story hit you the hardest? The buzz of those clippers on the nape, that devastating first mirror reveal, or the long-term lessons? If this walk down 70s memory lane made you laugh, cringe, or nod along, please hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories from back in the day, tough love parenting, and classic nostalgia, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Some of the best lessons in life come wrapped in a short, bouncy wedge and a whole lot of motherly love behind it. See you in the next story. I want to generate Jez for this story.